Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1263. The Final Watch. After a short pause, a brilliant silvery white glow continued to stretch out in front of them, completely drowning out the two invisible barriers that shielded Colin Iliad, Derek Berg, and Lovia. The barrier blocking the silver snaking lightning began to violently tremble. A crack that resembled tree branches appeared. As for how long the barrier could last in the lightning storm, that remained a question. At this moment, behind Dark Angel Sasser, there was an area that wasn't covered by the forest of lightning. Klein's figure, in his black trench coat and silk half-top hat, appeared. He was like a precise and cold machine. Without any hesitation, he aimed the staff of the stars at the side of the special evil spirit, quickly outlining all sorts of information related to the Beyonder powers in his mind. He had previously performed tests. He couldn't wander too far with the staff of the stars within the giant king's court, so he could only use blink in a tiny vicinity. Therefore, he gave up on the idea of directly sending Dark Angel Sasser out the giant king's court and seizing the opportunity to take the first blasphemy slate and leaving by opening the door. As the various gems on the staff of the stars lit up, Sasser's eyes, which burned with pitch-black flames, suddenly closed. He had been forcibly dragged into a dream by Klein. This was a Beyonder power belonging to the Evernight Pathway Sequence 7, but the one that Klein replicated had belonged to the version which the Evernight Cloister's matron, the servant of concealment Ariana, had used, the Beyonder power of pulling someone into a dream performed at the angel level. In the hazy dream world, Dark Angel Sasser wore a black robe with complicated symbols embroidered with silver threads and adorned with accessories. He had appeared in a desolate moor. His eyes remained ice-cold, unlike the dull and lifeless eyes of most Beyonders when they were in dreams. The Spectator Pathway also belonged to the Chaos Sea Pathway, and its Sequence 5 and Sequence 3 were Dreamwalker and Dreamweaver respectively. Moments later, Sasser's pupils turned golden and vertical. His giant figure faded away as a layer of abnormally thick shadows appeared in front of him. This shadow completely blocked Sasser, making it possible to vaguely make out a pair of eyes hidden behind the curtain. In the blink of an eye, the curtains parted, revealing an indescribable color, like a sea that seemed to contain all secrets. Boom! When Klein, the conjurer of the dream, saw this scene, his mind erupted with thoughts before he could analyze the details. It was as though his brain was a boiling pot of wheat porridge. The corners of his mouth curled up instinctively, and most of his virtual persona disintegrated. He nearly let out a tragic cry as transparent maggots under his left cheek began to drill out one by one. The meat tendrils on his right face grew more and more obvious, becoming thinner and thinner, approaching that of worms of spirit. The forcefully induced dream disintegrated, and Dark Angel Sasser's consciousness returned to the real world. However, at that moment when the special evil spirit fell into a deep slumber, the sea of lightning faded away. The three demigods of the City of Silver struck back at the same time. Colin Iliad straightened his body and struck out with the Sword of Dawn in his right hand, causing the silvery white light to blink to Sasser's body. As Lovia resisted the restraints of the shadow cloak, she got the Silver Knight evil spirit she grazed to swing its great sword upwards from below, bringing with it a terrifying storm formed from blobs of light. Derek condensed a dazzling white, unshadowed spear, thrusting it at the Dark Angel as it left crackling sounds in its wake. At this moment, Sasser's figure emitted infinite pure light, as though he had suddenly become a sun that descended into reality. Under the sun's illumination, the unshadowed spear melted. The hurricane of light calmed down, and the silver beam dimmed. All the latter could do was damage the target's aura, and not deal any harm to his body. The scene of a true deity's descent shocked Lovia and Derek. They couldn't help but bow their heads in worship. As for the Silver Knight evil spirit, it quickly melted under the blazing sunlight and completely evaporated. Suddenly, Sasser's eyes closed once again. Behind his back, with the worms of spirit constantly vanishing on Klein's body, he stubbornly endured the scorching sun's heat and pointed the staff of the stars at the evil spirit, the embodiment of the King of Angels. The beyonder power that he had replicated once again had forcefully pulled Dark Angel Sasser into a dream. However, unlike before, the moment Klein entered the dreamscape, he immediately released his Sapphira Castle's aura, transforming his body into the strange door of light that was tainted with some bluish-black colors. The door of light was made up of countless layers of illusory spherical light. Every spherical light was deep down a transparent and translucent cluster of twisted maggots. Just like him, Dark Angel Sasser revealed the traits of Chaos C. First, he turned into a thick and sinister shadow, then, he pulled open the curtain, allowing this sea, that contained all colors and something the human language couldn't describe, to appear in the dream. Silently, Sasser and Klein opened their eyes at the same time and raised their bodies slightly across each other. One of them was covered in a faint shadow, while the other's expression was twisted and ferocious. Many worms of spirit crawled across the surface of his body. Klein's virtual persona completely shattered. Seizing this opportunity while Sasser was affected, Lovia, who had the shadow cloak draped over her, blinked her pale gray eyes. She used the 2-meter-tall, squirming flesh to extend. Those skinless legs, which were flowing with bright red liquid, stepped onto the ground at the same time. With the help of the roiling winds, they pounced towards the Dark Angel. A look of madness appeared in her eyes. It didn't appear like it would take long before her spirit body suffered complete corruption, pushing her towards losing control. However, at that moment, Lovia's eyes were filled with more rationality and determination. She knew what she was doing and knew her current state and her subsequent end. Amidst the howling winds, her collapsing body, along with the shadow cloak, landed on Dark Angel Sasser's body. The squirming flesh and blood intruded as the thick shadow rapidly expanded, binding the two figures together. Without waiting for Lovia to speak, Colin Iliad had already understood her intentions. He immediately roared in a low voice, "Attack!" Boom! His two swords tore through the void at the same time, allowing the silver light to surge at Lovia and Dark Angel Sasser, who were embroiled with each other. Upon hearing the chief's words, Derek bit his lip and spread open his arms halfway. The palace that was shrouded in the shadows suddenly lit up as huge balls of light filled with holy flames appeared out of thin air. They enveloped the Dark Angel and Lovia within, quickly melting them and igniting their flesh. Flaring sun! Amid this bright glow, Lovia's pale gray eyes revealed the pain that she acutely felt. Her voice echoed in an ethereal manner. "I have never betrayed the City of Silver." Before she could finish her sentence, the flesh and the shadow cloak she used to envelop Dark Angel Sasser's body swelled up. Boom! Lovia's collapsing body was sent flying before she fell to the ground. Her shadow tore apart, turning into a thin, illusory veil that slowly floated down. Dark Angel Sasser turned into a pitch-black and sticky sea filled with an aura of degeneration. It swallowed the remaining silvery white light and flaring sun, reducing it to nothing. He immediately returned to his previous appearance, a giant dressed in a gorgeous black robe with silver threads. However, the black wings on his back had thinned significantly. At the same time, his pupils turned vertical and turned golden. A violent but surreal wind surged around him, and filled every corner of the Shadow Palace with all sorts of thoughts. Mind deprivation. Derek's recently condensed, unshadowed spear disappeared. He stood rooted to the ground in shock. Although Colin Iliad had a strong will, he suffered from the madness, cruelty, and bloodlust of an incomplete mythical creature form. All he could do was divert some attention to resist the influence so as to prevent himself from losing control. Just as Klein calmed down and allowed his worms of spirit to burrow back into his body, he suffered an intense fear brought about by mind deprivation. His body instantly convulsed, preventing him from using the staff of the stars. Lovia's body had already collapsed, and with her soul almost completely corrupted, she was in a worse-off state. She rolled on the ground struggling, leaving behind blood-colored sticky liquid. At this moment, Dark Angel Sasser raised his left hand. The golden colors in his eyes were replaced by two blazing white suns. Rays of holy flames fell down one after another, striking Lovia's body, destroying her soul and purifying her flesh. Lovia's aura rapidly dissipated as her pale gray eyes lost their luster. Her body, which had collapsed into a lump of flesh and blood, curled up. The skinless arms covered in bright red liquid wrapped the milky white, large human skull tightly in front of her chest and pressed it under her. Under the blazing sunlight, the holy flames burned. Lovia maintained this posture, not allowing herself to move, nor allowing the human skull to be revealed and receive any damage. Another column of light shot down. Lovia's body couldn't help but bounce up, but she still huddled there writhing. Finally, this lump of distorted, disgusting, squirming flesh stopped moving and covered the surface of the human skull. It was dark, dull, and damaged. During the Dark Angel Sasser's act of murdering Lovia, Klein quickly recovered from the effects of mind deprivation by using his unique traits and past experience. He felt an uncontrollable sense of despair towards this battle. They had used all their strength, but they had only slightly injured the evil spirit. Now that they had lost the demigod, the situation that followed would probably be even worse. What should I do? As Klein used creeping hunger to change his position, his thoughts raced in search of any possible weaknesses. It's intrinsically an evil spirit. An evil spirit. Just as his figure appeared elsewhere, he suddenly had an idea. He cast his gaze on the grayish-white stone slate on the iron-black throne. Some evil spirits had beyonder characteristics, but most of them didn't. The source of their power stemmed from other places, such as the spirit world. The existence of evil spirits needed something to rely on. This might be the territory that he was born in, or perhaps something special. The common point was that evil spirits could use them to connect to the spirit world or even the underworld to obtain the power to maintain their existence. And this evil spirit that originated from Dark Angel Sasser might even be mixed with some of the will of the primordial. Where did his powers come from? This was the forsaken land of the gods, and the connection with the spirit world was sealed. It was almost completely severed, making the powers difficult to be effectively utilized. Klein could teleport only by relying on the uniqueness of a divine kingdom or the divine kingdom's embryonic form. As for the giant king's court, it was clearly unable to provide the powers of the spectator, the sun, the hanged man, reader, and tyrant pathways. The traits the Dark Angel formerly possessed clearly belonged to the true creator at present, making it not present here. Therefore, the answer to the source of the evil spirit's power was very simple: Chaos C. In the Shadow Palace, the only thing directly connected to Chaos C was the blasphemy slate. When Klein cast his gaze at the iron-black throne, he noticed that the City of Silver's chief, Colin Iliad, had also glanced over,